Hi everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar. Welcome if this is your first time joining us, or were you with us on Tuesday night. Welcome back. My name's Helen, and I'm the Visa Processing Manager here at Brazolot Migration Group. And I'm going to be taking you through tonight's webinar. I'll be joined by my colleagues Dennis and Donna. So there'll be the three of us talking to you about tonight's categories. Okay, so I've been immigration consultant for over 15, 16 years, I don't know, long time now, but I've been practicing immigration for over 20 years. And I am a Canadian citizen. So despite my accent, I've got dual nationality. I'm British and Canadian. I've been through the entire application process that you're starting to think about. I went out to Canada on a temporary work permit, then applied for my permanent residency status, and then got my Canadian citizenship. So I have gone through all those steps that you are starting to think about. And over the years, I've helped clients from all over the world go through the process of obtaining their Canadian residency. Now, I am licensed with the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants, CICC, as is Dennis, who I'm going to introduce you to shortly. And it is really important that if you are getting advice about Canadian immigration, or you want somebody to represent you with your application, please do make sure that whoever you're using is licensed with CICC or is a Canadian lawyer, just to make sure that you're protected there. So as I say, we have helped clients from all around the world over many years of practicing. Here are just some of the nationalities that we've assisted with their permanent residency applications, work permit applications, or Canadian citizenship applications, or all three. So type in the box where you're joining us from. I can see we've got people from Jamaica, Trinidad, Saudi Arabia, the UK, Germany, Pakistan. So again, we've got representation from all around the world this evening, which is amazing. So welcome to you all. I'm based in the UK, so it's the evening here. I can see that Mark's with us. Hi, Mark. Okay, so really great of you to join us tonight. So I hope you'll find it really informative. But I've just got a couple of questions for you, and I think Dennis is going to put a little poll up for us. I just want to see what's our first question? How long have you been thinking about moving to Canada? Okay, so if you just click on the options there, over 5 years, 1 to 5 years, 6 months to 1 year, or you just thought this morning that if you're in the UK, you saw a little bit of snow and thought, hey, that's nothing. Let's move to Canada and really get some snow. So let's just, we'll leave this up for a minute or two just to see how long people have been thinking about it. There's no wrong or right answer to this. Some people think about it for an awful long time. Other people, maybe like me, get a job offer from Canada and kind of go, oh, okay, that sounds great. So don't really put much thought into it at all. So it all depends on yourself and your family circumstances, how long you've been thinking about doing this. So I can see that most people have been thinking for about 1 to 5 years, which is usually about the norm, okay? And one person just woke up this morning and thought, yep, let's do it. So I love that. So a lot of people do put a lot of thought into moving overseas because there's a number of things that you need to think about when doing it. And that's one of the things that we help you through, all these steps to get you there. So let's see those final results of that. So I can see that 56% of people voted, and most people have fallen into that 1 to 5 year category. Okay, so how many times have you been to Canada? And again, most people not yet been to Canada. I decided to relocate to Canada and I'd never visited either. So that's not uncommon, okay? But obviously a lot of people that have visited do go on holiday and do come home and think, yep, that is a place that I could live. So let's have a look at why you're thinking of emigrating. So you've joined us tonight. So you're obviously thinking of moving overseas and coming over to Canada. But what are your reasons for doing that? So if you can just type in the little chat box there, why you think that you want to relocate to Canada and leave wherever you are right now. So I can see we're all typing there. Better opportunities, job, better pay, standards of life, experience, quality of life, better life for children, be with family, better economic conditions, to work and build a new life. So you'll see there's lots of common themes running through in everybody's answers. So no matter where you're based in the world, the answers there are really, really similar. It's for family, it's for better opportunities. Now, Dennis and I have been doing these webinars for many, many years, and often asked this question to people. And you can see the answers that people give, and they've been giving these answers for over 20 years to us, are exactly the same. You can see their opportunities right in the middle, which is what a lot of you've said. Lifestyle, family, beautiful scenery, somebody's put, yeah, outdoor living. So the reasons you're thinking of moving are not new. They're the reasons that everybody decides to relocate. Better opportunities overseas, and Canada can certainly offer you that. So tonight, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the main visa categories in Canada, which if you qualify for, they're going to allow you to relocate to Canada and find those better opportunities for yourself and your family. So the main categories: economic, temporary classes, study permits and work permits, business, family, and provincial nomination. Okay, so we did look at study permits the other evening along with provincial nomination and family. So tonight we're going to be concentrating on the business, the economic, and the work permits. Now, we do use a lot of jargon in immigration, okay? So a lot of abbreviations, and because Dennis and I have been doing this for so long, we use these terms without even thinking about it. And sometimes we just need a little reminder that other people might not be sure what we are referring to, okay? So if we do say something tonight and you're not sure what we're referring to, just put it in the chat box and we'll let you know. But these are the most common terms that you'll hear referred to. Okay, the most important one is going to be IRCC, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. That is the government department that is going to process your visa applications. Now, this department used to be called CIC, so sometimes we still refer to it as its old name, CIC, Citizenship and Immigration Canada. What happens? A new government comes in and they decide they want to change things, so they change the name and their website and everything about it. So IRCC, CIC, that is the most important one. And Janina, MTV is a TV channel, absolutely. But in Canada here, MTV is Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, the three big cities that most people do end up moving to. Other ones that you're going to hear a lot are NOC, National Occupational Classification, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. PMP, Provincial Nominee Program, which we talked about on Tuesday night. Okay, so if we do say something tonight and you're not quite sure, please just put a little message there and we can come back to you and let you know exactly what it is we are referring to. So who are we? Brazolot Migration Group. So we are a immigration consultancy, and we've been around for a long time now, and we help people go through the whole process of their migration application. So as I said, we help with the work permits, the temporary permits, study permits, permanent residency, and we work with our clients all the way until they get their Canadian citizenship and they can get a Canadian passport. So we can work with our clients for quite a number of years. And we help people go through the whole process from start to finish. So as I said, tonight we are going to be joined by Dennis Brazolot, who is the owner of the company. And as you can see, Dennis has got over 27 years working in immigration. So he's fully experienced and will be joining us shortly. In addition, Donna is going to be joining us. She's our careers and relocation manager. So she's going to be able to chat to you about finding employment in Canada. And in addition, Amanda is with us this evening as well. Amanda's not going to be on screen, but she is there responding to some of your questions. And so please all say hello to Amanda, who's with us this evening. But we also have a number of staff in the office who help us help our clients go through this whole process. And if you do become one of our clients, you will be working with a number of our staff here in the office. So yeah, Amanda's our moderator. So Amanda will be there. Any technical issues, she will respond. So thank you for being with us this evening, Amanda. But as I say, Donna's going to be joining us shortly. And Donna is our careers and relocation manager, because as well as helping you get your visas and getting your temporary permits or permanent residency status to come to Canada. We also assist you with your relocation to Canada. So things that you've not necessarily thought about at the start, we're going to give you information advice about that. So information about getting your social insurance number, getting your healthcare organized, getting your driving licenses. And this information can change because Canada is such a big country. This information can change depending on which province you're going to be living in. Okay, so it's really important that when we know where you're moving to, that we give you the correct information so you know exactly how to organize your lives when you come to Canada. We're also going to give you assistance within finding employment in Canada. Lots of jobs in Canada are regulated. So we will let you know if your job is regulated, and if it is, what are the steps that you need to go through in order to get your licensing to let you work in Canada. But obviously the most important bit is the visa team, because without the visa, none of the rest of it matters. Okay, so we help with all those applications, whether it's temporary or permanent. We're going to help you go through that entire process. So we are your partner in migration. We do work very closely with our clients. As I said, it can be for a few months or it can be for a number of years until they get the Canadian citizenship. Because immigration is like the rest of the world, it's less face-to-face interaction with real people, and a lot of it's nearly all of it now has moved online. So it's really important when it is online and you're using that personal contact with visa officers that everything is correct first time, because otherwise if you submit something online, it can be rejected straight away. Okay, and then you've got to go through the whole process again. So it's really important that we work closely with our clients to make sure that these applications, when they get submitted, are going to be perfect and be accepted for processing. So preparation is key and critical. Okay, depending on the type of visa you get, there's going to be a number of steps that you need to go through before you can actually submit your visa application. And sometimes there's going to be timings involved, and it's critical that everything's done in the right process so that all the timings are met and that application can go in. Now, you will hear us tonight refer to our confidential evaluation worksheet. This is a 4-page form. I've got one here in front of me. And this is an assessment form where we can look at your information and determine which are going to be the best visa categories for you to apply for. Now, if you click on the red button there at the top of your screen, it will take you directly to this form. It's a 4-page assessment. We ask you about your education, your work experience, your funds, so we can do an assessment and let you know exactly what your options are going to be for you and your family to come to Canada. Once we've done the assessment, we will send you a report with the information, and we can also arrange a consultation, which will last for about an hour and a half, where we'll have a chat to you and go through those options with you in more detail. Now, the evaluation and the private consultation, the usual price for that is 112 Canadian dollars. But today we're offering that for $23. So a massive, massive discount. So as a new year, 2023, the discount is $23. And this is only available until Saturday. So if you want to purchase the evaluation worksheet and the private consultation for $23, you need to click on the red button now. You do need to put in the discount code, and the discount code is Canada23, okay? And that will allow you to purchase that form for $23. You don't need to complete the form right now, but you can prepay it, purchase it, get that huge discount, and then once you have completed the form, whether that's this week, next month, return the form to us, and we will then do that assessment for you. So we will be putting up the link to that form throughout the evening, so just keep your eye on that. It's still there along the top of the screen. It's going to be there for another 20 seconds. As I say, if you click on that button, it should take you to the form. So the payment for the form is through PayPal using Visa, MasterCard, or Amex. You don't need to have a PayPal account. You just need your credit card and make the payment. Or you can email Jennifer Kelly and she will be able to arrange a static form to be emailed to you. Okay, so the link to that form has disappeared, but we will be putting it up again shortly, okay? And we will give you a warning, so just keep your eyes out. So let's get on to tonight. Canada, you can go. Tonight we're looking at how to get a job, work permits, express entry, and the skilled worker visas, and starting a business in Canada. So that's going to be tonight's webinar. But we do have other events coming up, and these are on throughout the year. So Our next expo is going to be on February the 25th. So it's a Saturday, usually lasts for about 4 hours. And we have an agenda which is available on our website, and you can join us for the full day or just join us for the parts that sound most interesting to you. You just go to our website and you can register for the free Web Expo there. But if you want to come and meet us in person, and if you're in the UK or Ireland in March, we'll be more than happy to meet you and have a chat to you about your assessment there. So we are going to be at the Canada Live shows in Birmingham on March the 4th, Dublin March the 8th, and Glasgow March the 11th. So that week we will be traveling and meeting people face to face at these shows. It would be wonderful to meet some of you if you can. And then we've got another mini Web Expo on March 26th, which is a Sunday. And again, these are free to register. It's great. They're usually very well attended, and the feedback we get has been really good, with people really enjoying the topics that we discuss throughout the day, and they go away a lot more informed about Canadian immigration. For our clients, we do have webinar, private client webinar, which is held on the last Monday of every month. And it's a chance for us just to have a sort of face-to-face with lots of our clients, give them updates on general immigration matters, answer some of their questions. And again, these events were sort of brought in during COVID because obviously we couldn't meet people face-to-face, and they've proved really popular, so we've kept them all going. But anyway, let's get going on tonight. I'm sure you're fed up of listening to me. So let's get into our Canada You Can Go series. And let's start talking about actual immigration. So Dennis here is joining us. Hi, Dennis.
Good evening. You confused someone at the beginning because they said, why did you say good evening? Because it's afternoon.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Helen is
I didn't explain I'm in the UK.
She's in the UK where it is evening. So
you wouldn't be the first person I've confused. So
no, but I think Donna might have issues later when you said that your department was the most important.
That's absolutely the most important, always.
Okay. Fair enough. So you were on a party bus last night.
I was on a party bus. I think I'm too old for party buses though. So I'm exhausted today.
The songing kept you awake until 4 a.m. apparently.
It did indeed. Yes. Lots of. I was on a football party bus last night, and so there was lots of singing. 6-hour journey down to London and 5 hours back. Yeah.
Well, it could have been worse. Manchester United could have lost.
Tis true. We came very close to losing. So yes, let's be grateful that we managed to hold on for the draw.
Okay. Thank you, Helen. You're going to come back and join me a little bit later on for the Express entry?
Absolutely. Yes, I will. Yeah. See you in a bit.
Okay. Cheers. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are coming from around the world. I see that we have a lot of people from all over the world today. My name is Dennis Brazolot, and I'm the owner of the immigration company, Brazolot Migration Group. And I am based here in our head office, which is halfway between Ottawa and Montreal. We do have an office in Ontario. We do have an office in Nova Scotia. And Helen works out of our English office. But yes, I'm 27 years working in immigration law. Like Helen, I am a licensed immigration consultant as well. And this is important. So if anybody is going to help you with your file, they do need to be regulated, of which we are. My origins are Italian. I come from a family of 9 children. I'm the second youngest. We came from Italy many, many years ago. I did not, but my grandparents did. And my father was born here, just born here. But because of the way my father was born and the way my grandparents came, I'm an Italian citizen. Hence why when you see everybody in our staff, when they have the flags there, that's the passports and the nationality they do have. So my grandparents came from Italy, and I'm lucky to have a copy of my grandfather's immigration papers from 1923. In a couple of months, these papers are 100 years old. My grandfather came in 1923 at the age of 22. He came in on, I've highlighted different aspects on it. He came in on the SS Julio Cesare. The Julius Caesar was a famous migrant ship from Italy. Object of coming to Canada in 1923 was to establish oneself. Money in his pocket upon arrival was $25, which was the absolute minimum amount of money you had to have in 1923. We're charging more or almost charging more for the assessment. Tuberculosis, nope. Physical defects, no. There was medical questions 100 years ago. So a lot has changed, but some of the fundamentals haven't. Now that's my grandfather on my father's side. On my mother's side, my grandmother immigrated from the United States. and she came 5 years before my grandfather, and immigration changes. This is all she needed, was to register with the local police department. And this is my grandmother coming in 105 years ago. Now, I'm an Italian Canadian with both passports, Italian and Canadian. And I married Debbie, and Debbie was born British, and her family immigrated to New Zealand when she was 2 years old. She was raised in New Zealand. She has a British passport and a New Zealand passport. We have two boys, Massimiliano and Alessandro, and they have all 4 passports. They are Italian, they are Canadian, they are British, and they are New Zealand citizens. They're lucky little guys that can pretty much live and work anywhere they want for the rest of their lives. Now, the boys, I've loved this photo for years, but the boys said, give us an update, Dad. Max is actually 22 years old, and Alexander is 16 years old. This is us a couple of years ago tearing down their old tree fort in the backyard because we have the space to do this. Okay, we're lucky this way. So I come from Ontario. It's the Yellow Province, one of the popular provinces, and the most populated province in Canada. 10 provinces, 3 territories, and everywhere you can see on that map, I have been extensively, with the exception of the territory of Nunavut. The blue territory at the top, I've not been, but I've been to Yukon, I've been to Northwest. There's no place in Canada I couldn't live. Okay, east to west is completely different. North to south, completely different. Living in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan is completely different than living in Toronto, Ontario. Living in Halifax, Nova Scotia is completely different than living in Edmonton, Alberta. We can help you decide what we think could be good for you, but a lot of people have an idea where they want to go, and for most people, you'll be able to go where you want to go. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but my focus right now is to take you into the division that I actually run. I'm with the Business Migration Group, and now we're talking about the business migration to Canada and how you can do this. Business, starting a business, buying a business, joining a business, up to you what you want to do. Where you want to do this in Canada is going to be completely up to you, unless you must be a fluent French speaker to do a business in the province of Quebec. So if you don't speak French, we're looking everywhere but Quebec. What can you start? Well, you can buy a franchise, you can start a franchise, you can do a new startup company, you can buy an existing business, you can join a partnership, maybe you have family in Canada. But when we talk about being your partner in immigration, the business group goes a little bit more depth. The business migration application, you've got to have this perfected. Since we're also dealing with sums of money, your visa application has to be perfect from day one. We can help organize your fact-find trip. We do the market research with you. We write your business plan. So it's a usable and it's a usable business plan that is, you can use it as a guidepost. As soon as you get off the plane, you can open it up and go from A to B. Your fact-find trip is going to be important. You do need to come to Canada. So even if you're coming from a country that needs a visitor visa, we organize this. And your relocation, resettlement service, again, with Donna's department, is second to none, helping you with your soft landings. So why would you consider business in Canada? Well, we have some of the lowest business tax rates in the world. Very conducive for the economy in Canada, as 80% of the Canadian economy is built on small to medium-sized business. Where the converse in UK, 80% of the economy is built on big business. So it's a little bit more difficult for the small business person in the UK to get up and running, whereas in Canada, it's a lot easier. What type of money are we looking at? Well, this isn't hard fast, but this is a rule of thumb. We're looking at 250,000 Canadian dollars, which gives you the equivalent in whatever country you're coming from. So you need 150,000 pounds, $186,000, 172,000 euros. You need 1.2 million TT dollars. So your exchange is there. And if it isn't, always use the US figure. That's the kind of money Canada's looking at for you to make an investment into the country. So this investment, or also known as your spend, is made up of all kinds of different components. Your flights to Canada, you've got to come on a fact-find trip and you've got to come back for the final visa. Well, you can use the cost of your flights as part of your investment. You might have a new company car when you get here. That cost can be used towards your investment. Your immigration consultancy fees to us, we're a Canadian company. If you buy a building, the cost of the building does not count. That's a safe asset. But any renovations to a building will count. The moving and shipping of all your personal belongings or equipment is part of your expense. Miscellaneous aspects of the file, your Canadian government charges that you have to pay for you and your family, lawyer and accounting fees, and there's so much more. So there's very creative ways of doing this. So let's break this down in terms of the areas. First thing we look at is your net worth. So after everything is sold, how much money do you have in the bank? Your house is sold, your car is sold, you have cash, bonds, gold, whatever you have. What's your net worth? If you have zero money, let's get here. You have no money at all. You can still do 3 business visas, a federal startup, an owner operator LMIA, or an intercompany transfer executive manager. If you have up to 300,000 Canadian dollars, you can be Saskatchewan young farmer, Quebec entrepreneur, Yukon, or Northwest Territories. You need $500,000 net worth in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba farming, Yukon, Northwest Territories. Now, when I said your net worth is based upon everything once it's sold, that's not how you start. You might have your house that's worth $5 million and you have no money. Your net worth is $5 million. Okay, we'll talk about that afterwards. 600,000 you need to do British Columbia, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island. 800,000 for Ontario entrepreneur. 1 to 1.5 million for a different Ontario entrepreneur. 2 million to do Ontario corporate and Quebec investor. So that's your net worth. Once you have sold everything, what do you have to bring to Canada? What you have to spend is different. Remember, you don't need any money to do federal startup, owner operator, or intercompany transfer. And you don't need to spend any money to do the intercompany transfer. So you are the vice president of Shell in the Netherlands, and you're being transferred to Canada Shell. It's an intercompany transfer. It's a business visa. You don't have to prove any net worth, and you don't have to spend any money. You're coming in on an intercompany transfer. If you have 100,000 to spend, you can do a federal startup program. Now that's one of the two programs. You've spent 100,000. You'll own about 30% of the company, but you have to have permission in advance from one of the angel investors, one of the business incubators, or one of the venture capitalists in Canada who have been approved by the Canadian government. They're going to put up the bulk of the money, but they own 70%. You can do a Quebec entrepreneur for 100,000, but you must be fluent in French. 150,000 if you are a young person and a farmer in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Manitoba farming, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and Northwest Territories. Spending 200,000 will get you to outside of Vancouver in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, or the other federal startup. Here you spend 100,000, you get 30%. Here you spend 200,000, but you get 70% of the company. 250,000 is the illustration I showed you on the money. This is the owner-operator labor market impact assessment, Manitoba or New Brunswick. $300,000 is Saskatchewan, Yukon, another Manitoba farming. So these are outside the popular areas. Sorry, this one is in the popular area. This one is outside the popular areas. Northwest Territories, 400,000 to 500,000 spend will be British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario entrepreneur. So remember, you need to have $600,000 for BC. And if you want to live near Vancouver, you actually have to spend 500,000 out of the 600,000 to do a business. 1 to 10 million is Ontario corporate, Quebec investor, and Ontario entrepreneur. So these are the spend levels you need to do. Now, 250 is the example that we use because the most popular program is an owner-operator labor market impact assessment. That owner-operator impact assessment means you can do your business anywhere in Canada except Quebec, even the territories. You're not going through the provincial programs. These programs where it says you must spend the money, these are provincial programs. So Quebec, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Yukon, New Brunswick, Alberta. Those are provincial programs. The owner-operator is a federal program. So to do a P&P application, a provincial program, they are good. There is a reason why they exist, and some of our clients do need to go through this, but it will take 3 to 5 years to get your permanent residency if you are accepted in the beginning. Doing the owner-operator labor market impact assessment, you're going to see your permanent visa in 6 to 9 months because you're getting 200 extra express entry points, which we're going to talk about later. You've got to be prepared. You're talking about sums of money here. You want to make sure everything is done properly the first time around. Your immigration file has to be perfected in the beginning. Your new business, what can you do? Can you buy a pharmacy if you're not a pharmacist? Can you buy an accounting firm if you're not an accountant? So is the licensing mandatory? Is it optional? Is it regulated? What does it need to be into that business? What's your experience? Have you been self-employed? Are you an owner? Are you a manager? Are you a supervisor? Are you in a professional designation? You don't have to have been self-employed in order to do a self-employed application. So what you're actually doing is you're creating your own work permit. The labor market impact assessment, you're going to advertise your own job, looking for a chief executive officer to run my daycare business. You've got to pay $1,000 to the labor board. And you've got to show that the job offer being offered to yourself is positive or neutral to the local labor market. And you actually have to advertise your job for competition. You've got to see if anybody can take your job. It's interesting, but it works. Okay, so it's what the government does require. So quickly, I'm going to do a few case studies to give you an idea. Bob was one of our clients. These are all real cases. Bob came from England, and Bob had never owned a business before, but he was a restaurant manager. He was 43 years old. He had a degree. His English test showed that he was fluent, and he only got 310 points in express entry. Well, he purchased 51% of a diner in Canada. Now, you need to own 51% if you go into partnership. So we found a restaurant where mom and dad owned it. Their whole investment was there. Children have grown up. The children want nothing to do with this business. So he bought 51%. Condition was they stick around for a year or two. So they would teach him the vendors, the customers, the locals, the regulars, and he would get comfortable with it. So we got his work permit in 2.5 weeks. He got his permanent residency in 6 months. As soon as he's got the permanent visa, he can sell the business anytime he wants. But he was selected for the permanent visa because he got the extra 200 points. Pass mark was 469. He had 520. Bob was happy. And 1 year later, he bought the rest of the 49% from the family. Now we use Mary. Mary is an example. They needed her visa to come on a fact-find trip. She was a bachelor's degree. She had 384 points. English test was very good, not fluent, but close to. But she worked as an HR manager. Husband owned a restaurant, but had very little English. So we sent her franchising information. She came over and she bought into an existing daycare business. She bought 60% for 300,000. She goes back to Africa. She puts an offer down for 100,000, and the offer is conditional upon her getting a work permit. She doesn't get a work permit, she gets 100,000 back. We filed the application. We got the approval right away. The permanent visa was claimed. She had the 200 extra points. We got everything done in about 3 months. She came to Canada. Everything was good. 5 months after they came here, they were all approved for their permanent residency. We use Raj. Raj is a national in one country, but he was living in a different country. Has some differences, not complications. Had a 2-year diploma. His English language was good. He got 287 points, and he bought into a franchise in Ontario. But difference is Raj stayed in Ontario. He was at his sister's house, and he went down to the border, got the visa, came back up. So his PR was approved after 6 months as well because he was at the pass mark at the time. Preparation is key and critical. We become your partner in so many different aspects. It's your visa application, your business migration, the business plan. Okay, this is critical. The business market research is impeccable because you have to have the right facts and figures to go with it. A lot of consulting services that go out throughout the whole application, your fact find trip, and helping you with the relocation when you are finally landing here. Where you want to start your business is up to you. For those that are interested in a business program, we do have a hard copy book, Doing Business in Canada, that we sponsor. Send your address, your postal address to info@brazolotgroup.com. We're happy to post you out a complimentary copy. We can't scan it. It's a hard book. So we'll send it here. And Janina, unless you're fluent in French, you're not going to Quebec. And if you are, we'll talk to you privately about that. So this is Doing Business in Canada. If you are interested, you will also need this business supplement. Okay, so when you go to the evaluation worksheet later, there's a spot for a study supplement or a business supplement. Click that one and print this one off as well. It's a little bit of extra information that we need if you're looking to do a business program. So Canada's your oyster. You've just got to accept it. You can go whenever you want. Without further ado, let me bring in someone who's much better than I am when it comes to your jobs in Canada, our manager, Donna Vellucci. And Donna, coming in live from Nova Scotia before the storm. Yes, Donna, we're getting, again, 10 to 15 centimeters tonight, and we're getting it again on Monday. So whatever we get, you should get 3 days later.
It hasn't happened like that, though, has it?
No, it hasn't.
It hasn't. We are very lucky. It's still like a spring day here. Go Nova Scotia. We're keeping the mild weather going.
Green grass.
Sorry?
Like, can you feel the grass?
Yes. No snow. We've had no snow whatsoever.
Wow.
You can see grass outside my window. Yes.
Okay, young lady, I'll let you go and I'll come back and join you.
And I'd like to point out before you go, because I did hear Helen say that she was the most important. So
said you would be happy.
Yeah, I was going to crack in there when she said it, but I'm sure she's still listening. She knows.
We'll all be together at the end anyway, so you can harass her then.
All right, thanks. Okay, so hello and welcome everyone. I am Donna Vellucci and I'm the Careers and Relocation Manager at Brazolot Migration Group, and I've been working with job seekers and Canadian employers for more than 17 years now. Must remember to go forward on the slides. Okay, so you might be able to guess from the accent, I am British. I moved to Canada in 2003. And since that time, I've lived in 4 different provinces. I've lived in Manitoba, which is in the pink one on the map there, Ontario, the big yellow one, the big green one, Quebec, and the little tiny blue one is Nova Scotia, where I'm currently joining you from tonight. Or should I say this afternoon? It's not tonight for me, I'm getting confused. Okay, so for the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you some key job searching steps that it will ensure that you're ready to begin your employment search in Canada. Now, I know Dennis has already, or Helen already talked about preparation, and it is essential for both your immigration and your employment file. So we do talk about it a lot, but it is so very important. You do need to take the time to get ready, as it will not only save you some time, but it will ensure that you don't miss an opportunity. So what should your preparations include? Well, first, you are going to need to do some research and put together an employment file. And when you prepare your employment file, you will need to know your occupation code, because in Canada, every occupation has a code that describes the role, the employment requirements, and the duties. And knowing yours is really important for both your immigration and your employment file. So once you've determined what your occupation code is, you can look through the example job titles, because these may be different to the job title that you're currently using in your home country. Make sure that you are using the correct job title when you are searching for positions in Canada. These codes recently changed, so if you've looked at them before, you may want to relook at them. Once you know your occupation code, you will need to know if your occupation requires some type of certification or registration in Canada. So it may require professional or trade licensing. It will be listed within the occupation's employment requirements. If certification or registration is required, you will need to research the eligibility requirements and process of application, because that may need to be done before you can actually begin applying for positions. Okay, so once your initial job search is done, you can move forward with preparing to apply. And a good place to start is knowing where the opportunities are advertised by identifying the most appropriate job boards. So there are many job boards available online, which you may be familiar. You may see some, Monster, Workopolis, Indeed, etc. And I recommend that you do use these. However, in addition, there are many job boards that are specific to Canada, which you may not be familiar with. So identify a list of national, local, and industry-specific job boards is a really important first step in your search. Find out where the most opportunities are posted for your occupation, and if there are specific job boards for your industry as well. Once you've identified the best job boards for your search, create accounts. On many of these job boards, you need to create an account, set up a profile if that is an option, because it will save you some time later on. So if you're looking at in somewhere like Indeed, you can create a whole profile. So when you actually match with a job, it's easy to make the application. Okay, there are apps for just about everything these days, and I don't think a day goes by that we're not using them. So when job searching, apps can help you organize your job search, and they can save you some valuable time. So take a look at the apps that are available. Some apps will allow you to create a CV or a resume, and they may allow you to match with open jobs. So they may send you alerts when there's positions that are suitable for you. You can also apply directly from some of the apps, so do take a look at them. Canada's Job Bank, which is our national job board, has an app. So if you've not downloaded that one already and you're beginning a job search, then I recommend that you look at this one. Okay, so while it is really, really tempting to try to apply for every position posted, which may or may not match your skill set, it is really important to keep your search focused. You need to take a look at your work history. So have a look at what you've done during the last 5 years and look at the skills that you've obtained and start noting down the keywords, the duties, the job titles, so that you can use these when you are conducting your search so that it stays focused. With Canada being such a large country, it's a good idea to focus your job search on a specific area or region and make sure when you choose that region, there is a demand for your skill set before you begin applying for positions. Okay, so do have a look at that because there are some areas that have more positions for certain occupations and some areas where there will be no listings for certain occupations. So don't waste your time, make sure you've done that research. Okay, not all companies are going to list available positions on online job boards. There are lots of companies that only advertise on their own websites, or some are not even advertising. They've given up on advertising because they can't find the people they need. So if you do limit your job search to only applying to positions that are noted on job boards, you may lose out on an opportunity. So it's a good idea to research companies within your industry and the region where you wish to relocate to, and then start creating a list of the companies in those areas that are going to possibly have a position available. Some of these companies, as I said, may be advertising on their own website. So make an application via their website. That may be online. It may be submitting your CV by email. If they don't have a position posted, then I would suggest that you submit a speculative application, as that may get your foot in the door. It's also important to build professional networks in Canada. It's particularly important for professional occupations, but I do recommend it for all job seekers. You should at the very least create a profile on LinkedIn, but you can use Facebook and other networking sites as well. When doing this, make sure that the CV, because on these social media platforms, you can create a CV on LinkedIn. Make sure that that CV you've created matches the one, your paper format or your electronic CV that you would actually email to a company, because you don't want there to be any conflict in information that is likely to raise unnecessary questions or result in a lack of interest. So just make sure everything is identical, all your dates match up and all the information is accurate. If you do all have social media accounts, which I'm sure you do, make sure you review them and tidy them up. That's really important because most people are using a social media account for personal things. But when you start job searching, you want to make sure that it portrays you in a professional light, okay? Because potential employers will scan your social media and you want to make sure that you create the right impression. Once you've created your profiles, don't stop there. You can start connecting using these apps and these platforms. You can connect with professional associations and people you know who may be resourceful. Okay, and there may be first or second connections. One can lead to another. So do this once you've created the accounts. Okay, so as I mentioned before, you need to focus your job search. So before rushing into applying for every position, do take some time to match the requirements for the position with your skill set. So if you do not match the requirements, consider whether if it is worth applying. So if you see a position and you can't check off 80% of the listed requirements, it's not worth submitting an application. If you can check off 80%, then I recommend you submit an application. You don't have to meet every single requirement, but around 80% is a good number to go with. Okay, so when making your applications, submit your job applications using the method noted in the job posting. So if there's a posting online and it wants you to fill in a form and submit online, then you need to do that. If it asks for the application to be emailed, then make sure you follow that instruction. Mostly applications are going to be made either online for a form or by email. Many companies don't ask for post or in-person applications any longer. Okay, remember to note the requisition number or the job number and clearly note the job title. So if you're sending the application via email, then put that in the subject line of your email. Do not submit an application without your cover letter and CV unless the online process does not allow you to upload them. Okay, so make sure there's a cover letter that explains your immigration situation and how you meet the requirements of the position. Creating a Canadian CV in line with employer expectations is invaluable. You need to make sure that you know what to include and what to leave off your CV. I look at different CVs every single day from different countries around the world, and what's okay and what's expected in one country is not the same in the next. So it may be completely acceptable in your home country to include your date of birth, your religion, and any other personal information, but that information is not required here in Canada. So make sure you know what to include and what to leave off. And the format and setup is also different around the world. So do take the time to get it right, because your CV is your first impression. When you apply, do keep a note of the details and date of submission. And if you can, follow up with the company, because that does show that you are really interested. Many positions, for many companies, you can't follow up, but if you can, do so. You are going to be really fortunate if your first round of applications result in success. It takes most people quite a few applications before they're going to receive any interest. Therefore, don't sit around once you've submitted your first few applications waiting for a response. Just continue on with your search. Many people ask me how long it takes, how long should they wait to receive a response from an employer? That can vary, depends on the company and the position. So some people will hear within a few days, and other people, it can be many weeks before they will receive any response if there's an interest. And if there's no interest, then don't expect a response, because you're not likely to receive one. Okay, so Canada has, as of today, over 112,000 jobs on the Canadian Job Bank, that one job board that I was speaking about earlier, that represents all the provinces and territories here in Canada with the positions. But this figure is not really a true representation of the number of jobs available. It's often suggested that it's 10 times this amount. So there are many positions in Canada, and based on these high numbers available and our experience through talking with employers on a daily basis, there are no shortage of jobs here in Canada, just the shortage of workers. So once you've secured that employment offer, you are going to need to apply for that work permit. And I believe Dennis will join us now and talk to you about that process.
Yes, I will. And I got a text and another text. You hear that? You ready for this text? Donna obviously slipped, fell, and cracked her head, thinking she's more important than my department. From Helen. So we'll have a fight a little bit later on. But yes, Donna, we'll see you later on for the question and answers.
Yes, I'll be back shortly.
Okay, if you're just joining us, everybody, I'm Dennis Brazolot. I'm here to talk to you about the actual legal side of the work permit. I am a licensed Canadian immigration consultant. I've been practicing over 27 years, and now we're going to go into the work permit side of things. Yes, I get to talk about the legal and the boring issues. So you've got to be prepared, as Donna mentioned. She just talked about your employment file. Now I'm going to talk about the immigration file. Is it complete and is it ready? 4 components: the LMIA, qualified to pursue the occupation, paying the prevailing wage rate, and spouse or partners. So the LMIA, like the business, if you joined us there, it's a labor market impact assessment. The employer must pay $1,000 for every employee they're looking to hire through an LMIA. The job offer has to be positive or neutral to the local labor market, and the employer is going to have to go through competition for advertising to show they have exhausted the Canadian labor force first. Our law is Canadians and permanent residents first, foreigners second. It's a good law to have. Make sure that we do protect our own workforce. So you've got to be qualified to pursue the occupation. Okay. You've got to show you've got the relevant experience. Now, the biggest one here is, what is the ease to the employer to hire you? I've seen some questions. We're going to talk about these a little bit later on in the question and answer section. You need to have a perfected immigration file before you start talking to employers, because the employers have in their mind that you're going to be taking forever to get a work permit application together. They don't even want to bother with this. But if you turn up and say, I have my English test done. I have my credential evaluation done. I've got my licensing, or I've been pre-approved to do my licensing. I've got X, Y, and Z. Here's my work. Your file is done. It's perfected. You're ready to go. Any delay would be on the employer's side. Are you worth the wage? This is going to be important. If you've just graduated from university, the employer probably won't be interested because of what they have to pay in order for you to come forward. You don't have the qualifications just yet. You've got the education, but you don't have the experience per se. So we look at the prevailing wage rate. This is not we look at it. This is mandatory. This is what the employer has to do. So the PWR changes province to province, city to city, occupation to occupation. You need to do your research and know what you're going to be talking about. So I've used the example of a welder, okay? And the median wage for a welder across Canada is $25.50 per hour, okay? In Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, that same welder gets $21.75. And in Wood Buffalo, Alberta, they get $40. So I get some people saying, I want to move to Wood Buffalo. Where you choose to live, your standard of life should be the same. So earning $40 in Wood Buffalo will be the same standard of life as if you're earning $21.50 or $21.75 in Charlottetown. Your cost of living changes with the cities as well. So this is what you have to know is how much must you be paid in order for you to go through. So if you've just graduated or you've just got your welding papers, will the employer pay you $21.75? No, they'd be willing to pay you $16 if you're just new, but you can't get a work permit unless the employer is willing to pay the median. So you generally need about 3 to 5 years of experience first before the employer is going to be willing to look at this. So when you start looking at the job offers that are available, out of every 15 jobs offered, out of every 15 jobs listed, only 4 will potentially qualify. They're not paying the proper wage. They have an over allocation of foreign workers already, and the company's too new, whatever the case may be. But you're going to find when it comes to the wage, only 27% of all jobs will fit within that bracket of being qualified. So 20% will hit the median and 7% are in the high zone. Now, for those that say, employers say, unless you're here, don't apply. Apply. If you've got the skills, it will jump out because Donna will tell you later, it's a standard condition on their application that says you must be in Canada already. They don't untick it. So for a lot of employers, they're not concerned about that. Make your applications. Apply, apply, apply. So this is important. If you have a spouse or a partner, they get an open work permit from day one. You have a closed work permit with that employer, and it'll say how many years you can work there, the wage, the location. Your spouse or partner gets an open permit to do what they want. If you have children 4 to 18 years old, they get to go to school free of charge. And starting in about 2 weeks, the new rules are coming out for overage children being allowed to work as well, meaning 16-year-olds, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, part-time jobs, McDonald's, stuff like this. They're going to be eligible. They weren't up until now. So there's very few restrictions for the spouse on their open work permit. Everybody's entitled to free medical coverage. You, your spouse, your children, or whoever's with you in Canada will get free healthcare after 90 days of being here. So it's a good way of coming out because it satisfies the employer's need on a quicker pace. Now, this is a work permit. That's all this is. It's going to be valid for 1, 2, 3, or 4 years. It's specific to that employer. Because you have a work permit for Bob's Plumbing, you can only work for Bob's Plumbing. You see, Joe's Plumbing is offering more money. You just can't go work for Joe's Plumbing. Your work permit was issued for Bob. You'd have to break it and get a new one. Your partner has an open permit. They can have 5 jobs, 10 jobs, 1 job. They can do whatever they want. It's sponsored by the employer of the LMIA. They're not sponsoring you, okay? Nothing towards your permanent visa. It's only the work permit. And it doesn't automatically lead to permanent residence. You must do something. You need to know what type of work permit to get in order to get access to the next stage, which is permanent residency for an awful lot of you. So as an illustration, I talked about ways on Tuesday for those that were there. Tonight, I'm going to talk about playing cards. Everybody take a look at the screen. Focus on one card. Just burn one card in your memory. Okay, memorize it. You've got it? Well, that's your job openings, and that's you starting to find your jobs in Canada, what you're going to be doing. Now, you were very specific. You've got to go to Victoria, British Columbia, or where Toronto, Ontario. You've got to narrow it down. One job description only. That's what you're going to do. And lo and behold, it's gone. Okay? Hopefully you like that trick. You've got to be prepared to have the horse blinders off. Okay? You've got to keep everything in the open and know what's going on at every point in time. When I mentioned Waze, for those that have used Waze before to get directions to a place, you know your destination. You know where you want to go. and Waze generally gives you the best route to go. But if something happens, Waze will tell you how you can get around all of this real quick. We are Waze, okay? We know the, not angles, but the different pathways that you can do to get there. Work permit is a tool that a lot of people use. Segueing right into this will be express entry. And I think Helen's going to join me for this. And we're going to go through the categories here. Now, express entry is not a visa category. Express entry is a management tool that takes care of some provincial nomination programs, skilled worker class, skilled trade, and Canadian experience class. Helen, I just got a text from Donna saying, no, her department is the most important. You guys would just text each other.
I would always say Donna, obviously, is always way more important than me. So
yeah, but you said before that your department is more.
I know, but I was just trying to big myself up, but really no. Donna is always more important.
Okay. So Helen, let's talk about the 3 categories because we talked about provincial nomination on Tuesday. So because you are a tradey kind of girl, let's talk about skill trade. Take it away.
Oh, that's me. Any job that needs doing, I'm there. Okay, so Canada has a skilled trades category. So if you are a tradesperson and you've joined us tonight, this category could be for you. So Canada recognised that tradespeople didn't necessarily meet the points test for a skilled worker because of the lack of the academic education. So they created this new program specifically for tradespeople. And to qualify, you must plan to live outside the province of Quebec. Quebec's the French-speaking province, so as long as you plan to live anywhere else in Canada, that's fine. You've got to do a language test. So you've got to do an English or French test and meet the minimum requirements. And the requirements for the skilled trades category are lower than those for the skilled worker category. You must have 2 years of full-time work experience in a skilled trade within the last 5 years. Okay, so Canada's only interested in your really recent work experience, 2 years of full-time work experience in a skilled trade. You've got to meet the job requirements that's set out in the NOC. But the most important part of qualifying for this is you must have an offer of full-time employment supported by an LMIA, or you must have a certificate of qualification in your skilled trade. Those are often referred to as Red Seal certificates. So it's either or to make you qualify, a job offer or your certificate of qualification. If you meet those requirements, you can submit an express entry profile under the federal skilled trades category.
I don't think you talked enough, so why don't you take on CEC?
Oh, thanks. Okay, so another category is the Canadian experience class. So if you did have that job offer as a skilled tradesperson, it could be that after 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada, you could also qualify under the Canadian experience class. So this category, to qualify, the criteria is really simple. 1 year skilled work experience in Canada within the previous 3 years. And again, you've got to do an English or French test and meet the minimum criteria required. And that's it. Excellent.
So the economic category takes care of skilled workers, skilled trades, Canadian experience class. And the EE category, the EE express entry, manages the 4 routes that we talked about. Skilled worker, I'm going to go into now. Skilled trades, Helen just talked about. Canadian experience, Helen just talked about. And provincial and territorial nominations, we talked about on Tuesday night. So under the skilled worker, this is the only category that's a points test. So you need to score 67 points in these various 6 factors, okay? So we'll break it down. Under age, you need to be if you are between 18 and 35, you'll get maximum points. But we don't have an age cutoff. If you are 84 years old and you can still get enough overall points, you're still eligible to come to Canada, okay? So we're the only country that has that. So age 18 to 35. Qualification. Start with your high school or the end of your secondary school. This is a minimum qualification you need to have. All the way up to a PhD. So if you've got high school, you get points. And if you've got a 1-year certificate, a 2-year certificate, a 3-year degree, a 4-year degree, postgrad, a master's degree, PhD, the higher your education, the more points you will obtain. Work experience. Read my lips. This is mandatory. Okay, the red word right in the middle. You need to show you have 1 year of paid work experience in the previous 10 years before you can make an application. Mandatory. If you don't have it, you're not making an application. If you are a brand new graduate from electrical engineering from Bristol University, If you don't have any work experience yet, you're not going to get the work permit and you can't make your skilled worker application yet. Up to a maximum of 6 years, we'll show you the maximum points you can get. So 6 years in the last 10. Now, these years of experience do not have to be the same occupation. You could be 1 year as an electrician, 2 years as a cook, 3 years as a secretary. You've got 6 years of experience. It doesn't have to be in the same occupation. Now, the occupation is important. We use the English language and the French language in Canada, but Great Britain gave it to us. Thank you, Helen. Compliments to you. But we have obviously butchered this over the years. And you have to conform to our version of English, meaning you have to conform to our definitions. This is what's called the National Occupation Structure. This is the tier categories. It's now based on your training, education, experience, and responsibilities. You have to be in one of these green boxes in order to come forward for a skilled worker application. So we've got management occupations, we've got legislative, business, natural resources, health, trades, transport, manufacturing, and across this section is the level of responsibility, management, senior advisory, or trades. So you've got to find out where you appear on this grid because you have to be in one of the green boxes, plain and simple. Terminology is important. In, for example, Great Britain, you might call yourself an electrical engineer. But if you're working on a brand new job site, new housing, and you're pulling wires through the wall and you're hooking up to the receptacle boxes and you're turning on the electricity, that's not an electrical engineer in Canada. That's an electrician. So you have to have your title proper because an electrical engineer needs a bachelor's degree. Electrician needs a trade. So you've got to be careful. The visa officer does not have to correct your file. Your application can be refused completely on you picking the wrong job title. We have 2 languages in Canada. We have French and we have English. If you speak 2 languages, you are bilingual. If you speak 3 languages, you are trilingual. If you speak 1 language, you are, Helen?
British.
So you do have to take an English or French test. Every category that we have talked about, provincial nominations, work permits, CEC, federal skilled trades, federal skilled worker, everything except if you're marrying a Canadian, you will need to take an English or French test. For the majority of you, you're going to do the IELTS, okay? This is the one that's available worldwide. Some of you are going to be able to do CILPIP. That's being more and more, it's available in more and more places outside of Canada. And if you have a wonderful ability in French, there's 2 different French tests you can take because that will give you all kinds of bonus points and get you through. There's no pass or fail. It's a grading on your level. You need to take the general test, not the academic. It's valid for 2 years. You might have an academic test, which was brilliant scores. Even though it's the harder test, Canada will not accept it for your immigration application. Going back to Donna's department, maybe you have arranged employment or you're on a work permit. This gives you extra points towards your federal skilled worker application. And your last one is adaptability. So if you don't have any points for your age, you're going to have arranged employment and you're going to need to score some points in adaptability. So you'll get extra points if you studied in Canada for 2 years. If you have a job offer already arranged, certified by the government. If you have a close family member in Canada. Close family means mother, father, brother, sister, niece, nephew, grandmother, grandfather, son or daughter, niece or nephew. First cousins don't count. Second cousins don't count. Don't tell me about your cousin brother. Okay, some cultures extend their family. If it's not your mother's sister, or if it's not your father's sister, it's not your aunt. Even though you've called her aunt or auntie, unless it's your blood relative, it doesn't count. Now, if your partner or your spouse has a relative in Canada, that relative becomes your relative in terms of this file. If you've worked 1 year full-time in Canada on a skilled occupation, and if you have a spouse or partner and they've taken the English or French test and score well, you'll get extra points. So you need 67 points. If you've got a 2-year diploma and under the age of 50 with 6 years of skilled experience with great English scores, you're going to get the 67. That's not the problem. So that's the qualifying criteria for federal skilled worker, 67 points. Qualifying criteria for CEC, Helen?
1 year Canadian work experience in the last 3 years.
Qualifying criteria for federal skilled trade?
2 years work experience in the last 5 years.
Have a job,
or licensing.
So now you've qualified in one of those 3 categories. Now you can go to express entry. Now, I put the Olympic rings there. Helen hates it because, like the Olympic Games, they're every 4 years. And every 4 years, people have already competed in their home countries to be able to represent their countries. Then they all gather together and they go into competition. They go into the heats, the relays, the trials, and they finally get to the finals. And 1, 2, 3 people get a medal. Well, every 2 weeks, Canada has the Olympics, and Canada issues out about 5,000 medals. You need to be a medal winner. It doesn't matter if it's bronze, silver, or gold. You just need a medal, which is also your permanent visa. Helen, you can take. I've explained the Olympic rings.
Thanks for that. So express entry, it's a management tool. Okay, so you still need to qualify as a skilled worker, skilled trades, or Canadian experience class. That's really, really important to remember. Okay, once you've qualified under one of those categories, you can then submit an express entry profile, and Canada will award you points under express entry and rank you in the number of points that you score. So at the moment, the higher you score, the better it is for your application. There's a maximum of 1,200 points available. However, most people are going to be scored out of 600 points because there's 600 points available if you get a provincial nomination or I was going to say job offer, but that changed many years ago. So that's not. So if you get a provincial nomination, you get 600 points, hence why most people are only going to be scored out of 600 points. As Dennis said, selections are every 2 weeks. There was a draw yesterday, and the selection point was 490 points. So on this, the higher you score, the better it is. If you do get the business work permit, which Dennis spoke about at the start of tonight's webinar, you would be awarded either 50 points or 200 points, depending on what your occupation has been designated. Once you've been selected, you've got to submit your full permanent residency application within the following 60 days. So you've got to have everything ready to go in and submit. That includes medicals, police checks, references, everything. Everything goes in. And the processing times, 7 to 10 months. Canada had huge delays because of COVID, but they're working hard on trying reducing those. So if you put a new application in, hopefully it could be through even faster than 7 to 10 months.
That's your express entry.
That's my express entry.
Everybody thinks this is the visa. It's not.
It's not a visa.
Okay, it's just how you get selected. Now, Helen would like to tell you, and I'd like to tell you that everybody here tonight is going to qualify, but you won't, unfortunately, because there are going to be some barriers to migration. And one of the major ones is your English or French test. People, too many people take this for granted. Born and raised in an English-speaking country, I went to school in English, everything's great, and they take the test and they come back with 65 to 70% in the English test, which is enough to submit an application, but you're not going to get your permanent visa unless you score 80% or more. That's just the cold hard facts. Can you get 80%? Yes. Now, this is for federal skill worker. Federal skill trade, you're good enough at about 40% level, giving you an average. And for Canadian experience class, you want the higher level as well because there's extra points available. So you've got to study, you've got to practice. There's all kinds of tools available. We don't, but we work with the organizations from IELTS. We get private tutoring for some of our clients. We're not teaching you English. We're going to teach you how to take the test. Do not take this for granted. Helen, second barrier is?
The second barrier is going to be?
It's on the screen.
Oh, I was miles away then. ECA? Education Credential Assessment. Okay, so as part of your application, you've got to have your qualifications assessed to a Canadian standard. Your qualification, chances are it will come back as being equivalent to the same standard in Canada, but it might not, depending on where you obtained your education, how long it took to get your qualification, etc. But this is mandatory that you've got to have this report as proof of what your qualifications are worth. So even though you think you've got a bachelor's degree, once the assessment's been done, it could come back as just being a 2-year diploma. So it's really important that that assessment gives you the highest score possible.
Where you want to go is going to be up to you. Let's help make this happen for you because when it comes to Canada, you can go. You just got to do everything properly. So we have 3 separate divisions in the company, the relocation and employment division run by Donna and your migration division run by Helen with the exception of the business program. We are your partner when it comes to migration. Your visa application has got to be perfect. You've got to need to know which way to go. I've got lots of clients in Jamaica, and they meet other people, and they're pushed towards doing a study permit. It's not necessarily the best way. It can be an expensive way of coming. You need to know what is your best avenue for you. Fact find trips. Okay, some people will take them, some people won't. It's up to you, but we can help organize all of this for you. And the relocation resettlement is good. Canada, down to you. Now we're going into the final season. We'll be at the question and answer shortly. What do you need to do with us? Helen, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's going to be up for 3 minutes only this time. You need to do the evaluation with us, okay? As Helen mentioned at the beginning, Canada 2023, we've lowered it to $23. Click the button that says Canada 23, it'll bring you to there. We will never be this low again. This is a beginning of a new year, special offer, plain and simple. Page 1, we want to know about your details, your address, kids, everybody there. Page 2, we're going to go into your education. Fill these forms in properly. Do not leave blanks. Middle of that section, we're going to ask about your work experience, what you call yourself, what your job title is. At the bottom, we're going to ask about your language capabilities. On page 3, at the very top, we're going to ask about your financial status, your house, your car, your cash, your savings. Helen, are we being nosy?
We're not being nosy at all. I don't care how much money you've got. However, the government of Canada does. So for certain visa applications, you are going to have to prove that you've got a certain level of funds available to support yourself. So that's why we're asking that question there, because as part of the assessment, we need to see that you've got the funds available depending on the different visa categories. So please do not leave that section blank. Please fill it in so that we can complete the assessment for you.
Overseas family. Do you have any family in Canada? Or know about your plans? And finally, on page 4, you're going to have, if you have a spouse or partner, fill in their details, because don't fill in 2 separate assessments because you're 2 people. One form does 1 person, one form does 2 people if you're a couple. We will determine who the strongest candidate is from the form. Now, because you're going through the online, you don't fill in this part here about the credit card information, okay? You've already paid for it with the discount, unless you want to pay full price. I'm okay with that. But you do still need to sign and date, okay? Don't leave that blank. You'll see on the screen, you still need to sign and date to tell me everything you've told me is true, but do not fill in your credit card information. If you are interested in the studying, on the web, there's going to be a study supplement. There's no charge. Click that and add it to your basket. And if you're looking for the business, there's a business supplement as well, which I showed you. So when you click that button at the top, which has only got 50 seconds left, so for those who aren't paying attention, it's the last chance you're going to get for this discount. You're going to get to this page here, and it's going to show, do you want the English version or do you want the French version? Pick the one that you want. Then you go to the next page, and here's the supplements. So we've got a business supplement, add to basket, no charge, study supplement, no charge. But these 2 are static forms that you're going to have to fill out. Then you get to this section here. This is where you pick your coupon. That's where you have to put in the coupon code right here at the top of the screen. You see it's Canada 23, no capitals. Put the coupon in, and we'll drop this. Make sure it says quantity 1. From that point, you're going to get the evaluation, fill it in, get it back to us. That discount is gone in 9, 8, 7, 6. Click the button, everybody. You're going to get a report from us that shows you how you qualify the different visa avenues. So write this down if you didn't remember. The discount code is Canada 23. It's $23 for your evaluation / your assessment and your meeting with myself or with Helen in the future. This is what the $23 is paying for. What do you pay anything after that? If you want to become a client, yes. But we're going to walk through the different visa categories. We're going to go through the avenues you haven't thought about. We're going to go through the expenses, what it costs to make an application with the Canadian government and with us, how it breaks down, how you pay it, how you do this step by step. The payments are done through the website. You need a Visa, MasterCard, or Amex. For those ask about PayPal, no, you don't need a PayPal account. Keep going through to the very end, and you'll get to the section where it's about the credit card. Canada 23. People, this code expires on Saturday. It's not going to be at this price ever again. If you have done an evaluation with us in the last 6 months, you don't need to do this. For those that did this on Tuesday night, you don't need to do this again. But if you've done an evaluation and it's over 6 months, you're going to have to do the form again. I'm sorry. Immigration's had that many changes, and there are more changes coming in the next 3 to 5 months here. This is why we want you to be prepared. There's some exciting things that could be happening. But like the British lottery, their slogan is you got to be in it to win it. You've got to be in Canadian immigration to win it. Okay, and there's some exciting things happening down the pipe. This was our section on how to get a job, getting that work permit, business opportunities, express entry, skilled worker, skilled trade, and Canadian experience class. For those that want to see this again or Tuesday nights, you can go to our YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You can watch what we talked about on Tuesday and you can rewatch tonight. For those that want to get a copy of the slides, send an email, info@brazolgroup.com. Amanda will put that there in a second, and request a copy of the slides. Don't put it in the chat room because we don't get it from there. And we will send out the slides tomorrow from tonight. As a reminder, we have our full Web Expo. Helen didn't go into detail on this one, but this is more than tonight. So today we just talk about the visas. The Web Expos, we have different colleagues, different professionals with moving your belongings, moving and shipping of your money, moving your pets, real estate. And we have videos from out the country showing different areas of Canada. And that's why it's about 4 hours. Again, for those that are in the United Kingdom, we will appearing live at Canada Live in Birmingham, Dublin, Glasgow. These dates in March. Go to canadalive.co.uk and buy a ticket. It's not ours. We're just one of the exhibitors there. We're the only good exhibitor there, right, Helen?
Well, our colleague Jane messaged me earlier, so I wouldn't like to say that.
We're the only good Canadian.
Canadian, yeah.
Okay. And if you're not, you want a bit about the professional colleagues that we work with in the videos, but you don't want the 4 hours, and then we have a mini version again on Sunday, March 26th. So on the last Monday of every month, we do host a private client webinar just for our clients. There's no public access to this. You have to have an invite from us, and we go through what changes have happened in immigration. And these are the people that are getting everything up to date going on in a general scale. So now we're going to go into our question and answer section. This is the part I wouldn't be leaving now, people, because the one who said they're going to leave from Turkey, stick around because this is the important part. If you did like our webinar today, or if you just like Helen or Donna, or like the fact that they fight with each other, please go to Google or Facebook and give us a 5-star review. At the end of this webinar, it's going to ask you for a review. That's the company software. They just want to know about that. Talk about Go Out because people want to find the right people to be talking to. We've been providing these now for the last 3 years. We think they're good, they're informative, and they're quick. And now we're going to have Donna join us. So, Helen, are you moderating tonight or am I?
I can do it if I can remember how to do it.
Okay, yeah, so I'm already there.
Okay.
Okay, so hello, Donna. Well, Donna, you should have been here tonight because most of the questions were for you.
Hi, Donna.
So, Helen, Shinadu wants to know, why do British need an English language test?
We get this question every webinar or expo show we do. We always get this question. So everybody needs a language test now, English or French, no matter where you're from. So it doesn't matter if you've got your PhD from Cambridge University in English literature, you still need to do the language test. Okay, Canada just wants to make it fair for everyone around the world, that everybody's going through the same assessment. So everybody requires that test.
And I was going to slag Liverpool, but I'll leave it go.
Leave it.
Okay, Mabunda, can you change city once in Canada?
Yeah, so if you come over to Canada on a employer-specific work permit, your work permit will state the conditions of the employer that you're allowed to work for and the location. If you come into Canada with permanent residency status, your permanent residency allows you to live and work anywhere in Canada.
Is there a visa for over 35s for temporary work visa, for example, seasonal work?
There's not, no.
Plain and simple. Janina, can I work remotely in Canada for a non-Canadian company under visitor status for less than 6 months?
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. Do you, Dennis?
No. Hannah, do you ever do shows in Cardiff? We have been at the Hilton in Cardiff doing immigration shows. How much to travel alone myself? Kareen, that's the evaluation. We get into detail there because I don't know what kind of category you're going to come under. And if you have to show money, if you don't have to show money, or if you're coming just on vacation. Donna, for you, a lot of jobs in my field require valid driver's license. How do we work around this? Can we exchange UK license into Canadian license? Donna.
Okay, so in Canada, each province governs their own driving licenses. Okay, so if you live in Nova Scotia, you have a Nova Scotia driving license. You live in BC, you have a British Columbia one. But however, for most, for all provinces, if you have a UK license and you have a minimum of 2 years experience, then you can exchange it. It's always the decision of the driving authority in that province. What's that? I don't know what that is.
Is that a special Nova Scotian word, Donna, that you've picked up?
Yeah, it's already started. Okay, so, but basically, if you've got a UK driving license and you've had that license for more than 2 years, then yes, you can exchange it in Canada.
Now, Donna, is that still the same for our UK licenses from Northern Ireland?
Depends on the province, because
Okay.
some provinces you can and others you can't. So most I think you can now, but don't ask me off the top of my head which ones you can and which you can't. If you're from Jamaica or from Trinidad or other places where there's not a reciprocal agreement, you will have to do testing to get a license in Canada.
What the amounts we pay for a work permit once we pass the assessment? Charlene, that will go with you on a step-by-step basis, but you're probably going to be looking at, there's no answer, but there is an answer. We're going to go through what your needs are and the family background, the whole 9 yards, but you're probably going to be looking at about $5,000 for a work permit done in stages as we go through, but you don't do anything until we've had a meeting. Then you make a decision, and that meeting and the assessment is $23. You don't pay anything more until after that. Helen, where can we find the occupation codes?
There will be links to them on the IRCC website under the skilled worker category. You can find them there.
Donna Avinash has got a good question. Why does Canada keep saying they need people when you apply for a job, the employer realizes you're not valid resident or work permit PR, they shut you down?
If only every company was on the same page of what's needed. You know, in every day I'm hearing that employers need workers, but the employers have to be on board with immigration programs in order for them to hire. Some of them still have the reasoning that, you know, they're going to find someone here in Canada, but for certain occupations they're simply not, and they're in the same position year after year. But unfortunately, Canada cannot force these employers to hire foreign workers, so it does depend on their own company regulations and how persuasive you can be in order for them to need you and agree to hire you.
I just realized I got my funky shirt on. With Skype, it doesn't do this, but does it look like it's going?
Yeah, not so much.
Okay. Just pointing out. Okay. Sherry wants to know, can you assist with work permit if I enter Canada on a visitor visa? Sherry, we can, but we wouldn't advise it because you could have a period of time that you're not working, depending on where you're going, what you're doing. But the answer is yes. Donna, what happens if you change careers and have not had much opportunity to work in that field?
If you change careers in Canada?
I'll take this one, Hannah. We've had clients like you before, and they've come to Canada on their previous occupation, become permanent in less than a year, and then go to their new career because there's always graduates there. Do you have to be a skilled worker? Nope, you don't. If I have my EE inside and I've applied to many jobs, they never consider me for an interview because they realize I'm not a valid person. I think you are a valid person, Avinash. It means most of these employers don't have an LMIA. Donna.
Yes, basically, I mean, that's similar to the previous question in the sense that there are companies that won't consider foreign workers, but there are lots of companies that will consider foreign workers. We've got like different programs. So we've got the Atlantic Immigration Program. There's hundreds of employers that are hiring constantly throughout Atlantic Canada, for example. And that's the same for across the country with the different programs. It's just about finding those actual employers that are hiring at this time and willing to go through the immigration process.
So with you, Donna Avinash, a lot of jobs in the Canadian Job Bank indicate if you don't have PR, please do not apply to the positions. I think I talked about this briefly.
Yes, basically we get this question asked all the time, and Canadian Job Bank has changed the setup, but the fact is that is the default setting. So it's always the default, and many employers don't change it, and many of them don't want to change it because they're going to receive hundreds of applications from outside of Canada, and the idea of the job bank is to try and hire within Canada. So that's part of the reason. I would say still apply if you meet the position requirements, because it is the default, and most of the employers that I help obtain LMIAs and do the advertising on the job bank will have that set as their default as well, and they plan to hire a foreign worker.
Donna, how do you find out the prevailing wage rate for your career field?
You can find, I don't know if it's available, Helen, you can tell me if it's available on the immigration website, but you can also find that on the job bank.
Yeah,
so
just
on the
job bank.
Yeah, on the job bank, you can find it there. So where you look for jobs, you also find under the trend settings the prevailing wage for every occupation.
Segue. I realized both of you now realize that neither of you texted me the other to say that each other was better than the other.
Obviously.
Well, it was a little unbelievable because if Helen believed that my phone was actually active and not dead.
Yeah, that's assuming that Donna had her phone anywhere near her. Donna switches her phone on about every 6 months, I think.
If you're a skilled worker and come to Canada under a work permit for 1 year, can you apply for the skills work visa? Helen, for you?
Sorry, if you are a skilled worker and you've come to Canada under a work permit for 1 year, can you apply for the skills work visa? I don't quite understand, Hannah. So if you've got 1 year of Canadian work experience, you can potentially apply it under the Canadian experience class. If you have an open work permit and you have a job offer, you can potentially apply to get a new work permit. So yeah, if you're in Canada and you've got Canadian work experience, there's going to be options for you.
But you can also apply the day you arrive with a work permit, if you're qualified.
Possibly, if you qualify.
What information do I need to have ready in order to apply for a job to have any better chance of being created at recent IELTS results? Haiti, that's what we talked about. That's something we'll talk to you in a private consultation because everybody's different in terms of what their file is going to be. Is skill work experience Canada based? No, Hannah, it's worldwide based. Canadian experience is skill work in Canada, but everything else is foreign experience and that counts. Keisha, I'm getting this blocked. I was on Tuesday. You mentioned that you will answer all the questions I had to read PMP today, but I saw you just keep mentioning you talked about PMP on Tuesday. My question was where do I find the job for the PMP program? Which sites should I look on? Can I use the ones you mentioned here today? Yes, sorry, Keisha, that is exactly what it was. Indeed, Job Bank, Donna, you had Monster up there.
Workout Plus, Career Out, Career Aim, Career Beacon. There's lots of job boards available, and also industry specific things. So if you're in a specific industry, there may be some job sites as well. But Job Bank and Indeed will cover most of the positions for you to look at.
Okay, Donna, question. I hope I didn't skip a question here. Someone with 12 years of liquid natural gas, 8 years methanol facility operations technician. Do I qualify as skilled workers? If not, where do I fall? Adrian, you are qualified as a skilled worker. Yes, I can answer that one. Donna doesn't need to. Where can we find that grid for the work experience? Again, Keisha, that will be the immigration website. You're looking at the NOC. For CEC class, do candidates also have to meet the CRS score requirement, or is that only for skilled worker? Amir, yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. That CRS is express entry for all the categories. Okay. Tara, I'm going to answer this one, but if we come across the same type of question, I'm going to ignore it. So Tara and everybody else out there, would a teacher be categorized as a skilled worker? If your occupation requires that you have formal education of at least 1 year or more, you're a skilled worker. We'll leave it at that. So if the job you're doing requires you to have 1 year of education or more, you're a skilled worker. Keisha, will a teacher have a good chance of getting skilled worker, or will PMP be better? Keisha, either or. Some will be, a lot of our teachers come through skilled worker. The PMP is predominantly going to be used for people who have a job offer. So it's a work permit first before you're going to get PMP. Janina, I'm not going to confuse everybody with Bill 19. Helen and I are connected with an immigration chat group of about 3,000 lawyers consultant. So we know what's happening down the pipe on this one. Not going to confuse everybody. Not even going to talk about it. Sorry. I'll talk to you privately. Do you have to pay for the English tests? Helen.
Yes, you do, unfortunately. There's loads of practice materials available, either from the IELTS or CELPIT websites, even on YouTube. If you just type in IELTS listening, IELTS reading, there's loads and loads of free online tests available for you to practice on. But when you register for the test, you will need to pay a fee. I think it's probably about £160 now to do the IELTS test. So you do need to pay a fee for that test.
About 350 US is the common average around the world. Savvy, for you, Donna. No, it's not for Donna.
No, I'll take that one.
Okay.
Hi, Savvy, Chartered Accountant, ACCA and BSc. Should I use WES to verify my credentials? Yes, you can use WES and get both credentials assessed.
Janina, I'm currently in the pool of 430 with French CLB 6, taking TEF again, and IELTS, and turning 41 in August. Good for you.
Get that CLB 7 if you can, Janina, because that will make a huge difference.
But Janina, with those levels that you have, there's other opportunities for you now that you haven't seen. Remember, more ways. What are the minimum funds required for each category? Jamila.
Okay, so it does vary, Jamila. So for these,
I've got the update here, Helen.
I've got it up to date too.
Okay, take it. Sorry.
No. So skilled workers, for a single person, you're looking about $13,310. For a family of 4, it would go up to $24,733. So it does depend on the number of family members that you have. And that's for the skilled worker, skilled trades if you've not got a job offer. Okay. For the Atlantic Immigration Program, the amount of funds required is going to be much lower, but you do need a job offer for that. But you probably need about anywhere between $3,000 and $6,000 for that one. So it does vary depending on the category that you're applying for.
Nina C. I don't have my educational documents and don't have access to my country to get them. I have to get new ones based on what I've asked from everyone past year. How can I make sure in advance before spending a lot of time and money that my documents will be accepted for ECA? You don't, Nina. That's the purpose of the ECA. Is to find out what the credential evaluation is comparative to in Canada. I'm sorry, go through the hassle of doing it. Where there's a will, there's a way. We've pulled off miracles before, but you're going to have to get the ECA done. Okay. Unless you're marrying a Canadian. How much do you need in the bank if you're applying? Okay, we've done that one. Donna.
Do you assist with getting the LMIA? Yes, we assist employers. They are responsible for applying for the LMIA, not you as the foreign worker, and we can assist the employer with that application.
Teres, is it separate application for Express Entry and PMP? It can be because not all PMPs go through Express Entry and some PMPs go through Express Entry. So the answer is both. Or yes. Helen, my husband travels on a work visa for the States. Sorry to hear that, Denise. Can I still apply for a work permit for him? In other words, include him on the application.
Yes, you can. Yes. So if you're applying for a temporary work permit and you have a skilled work in Canada, your spouse can apply for an open work permit.
I'm in Jamaica. I need to do face-to-face with you folks. How soon? Alicia?
I'll go to Jamaica, Alicia. So,
well, both Donna and Helen have been in Jamaica doing consultations. Donna more than twice, and Helen once or whatever. We won't go into that, sorry. But Alicia, for our clients that have done this, they get the results out and they get the dates and times of the interviews in Jamaica.
I'd like to say I don't think Jamaica's warm enough for me this time of year.
No, not
anywhere warm enough for you.
No snow in Nova Scotia, no. But yes, Alicia, we used to tell the people the times in advance. They go and make an appointment. They never got the evaluation done. So yeah, we don't do that anymore. It's only for the people that have gone through the consultation, the evaluation process. Jorge, would you recommend to immigrate for a 35-year-old professional couple without children?
Wow.
Anywhere.
Yes.
Absolutely anywhere. It depends on your lifestyle. Each province, I've lived in 4 of them, so they are all very different, and it depends on your lifestyle, what your work is, but also what you like to do outside of work. Some of the country is mountainous, so some of it's completely flat. So it's going to depend. We don't decide for you. You might have to be led by where you can secure a job if you do need a job in order to apply for a visa. Otherwise, just look whether you like city life, you like more smaller towns or rural areas, and make a decision from there.
Jonathan, what provinces in Canada do you recommend for jobs within the field of arts, design, and graphics? That's pretty open and loose.
Yeah, again, it's going to be really your main cities. However, because of the pandemic, there's lots of remote work now, but mainly, I mean, they always used to say it's going to be Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, those areas. But places it is growing in the Maritimes as well, which is the Atlantic provinces. So we need to know a little bit more information about what you actually do before we can let you know where possibly could be a good place for you.
Can I use a visiting visa to find work or get employed in Canada, eventually immigrate there? From Jane. The answer is yes, Jane, but what do you want to say, Helen?
It's not something that we recommend because if you're in Canada as a visitor and you get a job offer, it could still be many months before you get a work permit. Okay, so you could be in Canada as a visitor, unable to work, unable to get healthcare coverage. So it's not something that we recommend.
My husband is a farm worker. Can we live there? Karine, I'm going to take a leap and think maybe you're from Jamaica. There is a farm worker program, which we don't work with. I'm a 22-year-old female in nursing school from Jamaica. Am I able to migrate? Kamoy. It's rare that you're going to hear this from us, but yes, you can. But maybe you don't do this yet, unless you want to get the discount, because it's valid for life. But you're too soon. You've got to have nursing school done. You've got to have graduated and get some experience first. I'm a geriatric nurse, Shania, but I do like this one. For 1 year's experience, are the job opportunities? Yes, there are. Do you assist unskilled workers with work permit, please? Noel-Cena, unfortunately, we don't. Charlene, might be American. Are y'all going to provide resources for home and jobs before we come to Canada? Donna, do we provide the homes and jobs?
Okay, so we don't provide any homes for jobs, but we can provide some assistance with finding the jobs and settlement assistance. So we can't find you a home or anything like that, but we can refer you to the right people that can help you or the resources that you need. And I think that was what your question is.
So Charlene, this is an excellent question because everybody, we will not promise you a job. It's illegal. It's dumb. It's stupid. Only the employer is going to promise you a job. Unfortunately, there are some cowboys working out there in the immigration field that make promises on getting you a job offer. We don't do that. We're highly successful, 96% success record, but we don't promise you or guarantee you a job. That's illegal. But as for the resorts and all the other relocation, yes, Charlie, maybe you didn't see the beginning of our seminar, but that's one of Donna's departments. I have a diploma in healthcare level 2, sitting guilds, and NVEC level 2. How can I get a visa sponsorship job? Helen?
To find any job in Canada, you have to apply. So that's the only way you're going to get a job. No one's going to phone you up or email you and offer you a position. If you're, whatever you do, whatever your occupation is, if you want to come to Canada and you need a job, you're going to need to go through that process of preparing your employment file and spending time applying for those positions until you're successful.
Can you send me the business supplement, please? With my account won't let me in, Graham. Actually, you don't need the account, Graham. I know what you're talking about. Just go back to the website and go past that first page, and you'll get to the business supplement for free. If that doesn't work, email Jennifer again, because I know we had to send you out the evaluation worksheet again. But you can get it online without having to worry about your account. Just go up to the website. Is there a list of companies with positive LMIA? If yes, where can it be found? Donna.
Service Canada, who issue the LMIAs, positive ones and negative ones, they do have information available on their website. It will be 2022, maybe in the first quarter or the second quarter, I think, is available on their website.
Okay, Helen, good question coming up here. Do we work with Arima? Because she's our French speaker.
Oh, okay.
Thank God we don't.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I said you've got other avenues which you're not aware about. Get your evaluation done. Don't worry about Arima through Quebec. What jobs are there for a teacher with 25 years of experience? Donna.
If you're an early childhood educator, so you're working with early learners, then there are lots of opportunities. For other types of teachers, Canada's successfully been filling their own positions, and many teachers in Canada have gone out to Asia. So it may be a struggle if you're an elementary or a secondary school teacher. But if you're in early learning, then that is high in demand in Canada.
But Janet, it also comes down if there's a specific subject that you teach as well. When applying for jobs in advance, is it necessary to have your Canadian contact number on your CV? So
okay, so we may differ a little bit about what our answer is going to be. So if you have a Canadian contact number, then obviously put it on your CV, but it can be misleading and you can waste some time. If you mislead an employer to them thinking you're in Canada, you may start to progress an opportunity and then it may end. Okay, so it can be useful, but it's not always going to work for you just to have a Canadian contact number on that. So that's up to you, but for some it has paid off. But like I said, it can start an opportunity off, but then that opportunity can dry up once they realize you're not in Canada.
Sorry, I jumped. Donna, how can someone get a Red Seal document to let everyone visiting Canada take the assessment test?
You can't. The answer to that is you can't get the documents if you require testing, which Red Seal compulsory trades do. However, you can go through the assessment process in order to be approved to write the tests, which you can then do either by visiting Canada or once you relocate. So it is really important to start that off beforehand. For the skilled trades, which Helen was talking about earlier, obviously to have that Red Seal document, there are some provinces that do allow you to come in and do testing, and others you can't do that, or it's not always the province, it might be the actual occupation. So it does depend, but we will advise on that depending on your occupation and where you're planning on working.
Helen, is there PR pathways that have no point systems?
So the PR pathways that have no point systems would be the federal skilled trades, Canadian experience class, although you've still got to do the point system for express entry. Other than that, you're looking at provincial nominee programs. However, even within provincial nominee programs, marriage, yeah, that would be the only one. You keep offering yourself out there, Bo. So even if the provincial nominee programs, a lot of them now are points based as well. So it is the way that Canada's going. But if you're not applying under the family category, a lot of programs are going to be points-based these days.
Avinash, I have an EE profile already done. Do I still need a consultation with you? Well, Avinash, if you have an EE profile, that means you've not been accepted. So yes, have a consultation with us. We'll show you get accepted. Am I going to show you what mistakes you made on your EE profile? No. But yes, by all means, it's valuable to have a meeting with us. Donna, are there good opportunities for scientific jobs? Jorge, which provinces? This is our Spanish guy who's over 35 with no children. If I'm correct.
There are good opportunities, but scientific jobs is so broad that it's impossible to answer that and to say which provinces. And I don't want everyone asking about their occupation and where they should go, because I'll be here all night.
Exactly. Same thing here. Oil and gas. Which areas do I look at? Again, Donna can't go through. She'll go all night. But back to Jorge. Unfortunately, you've got this one, Helen.
Oh, yeah. Jorge, I recently got an 8 for an academic IELTS. I really need the non-academic one. Unfortunately, Jorge, you do. Canada, for immigration applications, will only accept the general IELTS test. They won't accept the academic.
Thanks, Janina. Wow, she answered for us. Fantastic.
Thank you, Janina.
That is to the end of our questions now. So, people, there's lots of questions. We'd love to answer everybody, but I mean, people start getting into their, what about my occupation? What about mine? And this is what we do on a private one-on-one consultation. Okay. This is invaluable. It takes you about 10 minutes to fill the form in. Type it in, get it back to us. It's $23, everybody. We can't be any lower than that. So by all means, if you like the webinar today, give us a 5-star rating on Google, Facebook. Canada, you can go. It's the world is your oyster. Canada's here for you. Where do you want to leave this, Helen, Donna? Let's have a poll again tonight. No, okay. You know what? I'm going to do the other video. I'm not going to give everybody a chance. We'll give the other Canada video tonight to finish everything off. But everybody, I want to say goodnight, goodbye. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to give you a quick history of Canada. It's a 4-minute video. It's comical, but sit back, enjoy, relax it. Get those back to us. Remember, the discount is only good until Saturday. Take us up on this.
Thanks, guys. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we may see you again next month for our Web Expo. Have a good one.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mr. This This is North America, and the literal icing on the top here is Canada. Now, let's check it out, eh? Canada is the second biggest country in the world by total area. A vast expanse of forest, prairie, mountain, tundra, and subarctic iciness, bridging 3 oceans in a bracing chorus of 50,000 islands and 30,000 lakes. And yes, it's all very scenic, so let's just stop before the other countries get jealous. This gargantuan resource-rich mass of Earth was settled first by Paleolithic tribes crossing over from Siberia, hunting musk oxen, mastodons, and mammoths. These indigenous peoples, for millennia, survived as hunter-gatherers in places like this, killing their prey with stone tools in the bitter cold. Over time, many tribes established settlements and moved on to agriculture and pastoralism, subscribing to an animist religion overseen by shamans and expressed in ceremony. War between clans occurred, and slavery was practiced, most commonly in the Pacific West. The first Europeans arrived around the year 1000, Vikings, who settled for some time in Newfoundland and then went away. In 1497, John Cabot explored the Labrador coast in a fruitless search for a northwest passage to Asia. Since the waters were so abundant with fish, Europeans began angling en masse here, but for decades none of them were really interested in settling. In the 1530s, French explorer Jacques Cartier navigated the St. Lawrence River and gave the land its name, Canada, after the Iroquois word for village. But domestic troubles stymied any efforts to French colonization, and it wasn't until 1605 that Samuel de Champlain established the first settlement at Port Royal, Nova Scotia. He later founded Quebec. Soon, a lucrative trade in pelts, animal furs, was set up with rival native tribes siding with rival European states for land, money, power, the usual. The King of France's advisor, Cardinal Richelieu, pushed for further French colonization, and settlers poured in along with Jesuit missionaries. Meanwhile, Mr. Henry Hudson had claimed this region for England, and no, Britain was not content with just that, and got a whole lot more after beating the French in the 7 Years' War. While Britain attained mastery over Canada, its American colonies revolted and gained independence. But the revolution did not ignite the North, so Canada remained a possession of the Crown, and indeed, Canadians proved loyal British subjects, fighting America in the War of 1812, which ended in stalemate, but left Canada intact and unconquered. After introducing a number of crucial political reforms in the mid-19th century, Canada could focus on expansion. Railways were built, industries ripened, cities grew, and Canada extended its territory, not without resistance. Confederation in 1867 saw John Alexander MacDonald become first Prime Minister. The Wild West was tamed, complications arose and still persist from the passage of the Indian Act, and the miseries heaped upon the First Nations with the residential school system debacle. The Klondike Gold Rush arose, and 600,000 Canadians fought for Britain in the First World War, where they distinguished themselves. The blossoming economy suffered terribly from the Great Depression, which no amount of tariffs could ameliorate. But stability and better times returned under Mackenzie King. Relations with the US improved, and Canada rallied to the Allied cause in World War II, not only sending Britain troops, but also steady shipments of badly needed food and supplies. Aside from its massive contributions, the war left Canada highly industrialized and ready for the future. Canada's prosperity grew further in the following decades. Immigration was encouraged, with many arrivals from southern Europe, altering the traditional English-French norm of the nation. The popular Pierre Trudeau introduced a policy of official multiculturalism in 1971, opening Canada up to millions of immigrants from all over the world. Canada gained full sovereignty from the UK in 1982. Meanwhile, separatists in Quebec were calling for independence. Their referendum would be narrowly defeated in 1995. Canada has been an active participant in many UN peacekeeping missions and refused to join the US invasion of Iraq. Canada today is among the richest countries in the world and ranks among the highest in quality of life, and millions of tourists travel to it every year, visiting cities like Vancouver, Winnipeg, Montreal, and Toronto, and visually supping on the impossibly attractive natural wonders found all over the country. I personally wouldn't mind stopping by that serene slice of heaven, Prince Edward Island, immortalized by Lucy Maud Montgomery in her Stories of Anne of Green Gables. So that's the super quick history of Canada thus far. A blessed land that has given us a lot in science, literature, sport, cinema, music, and most importantly provides our pancakes with pristine maple syrup. Not bad for a country whose national symbols are a leaf and a beaver. But what awaits Canada as it strides on into tomorrow? Comment below, but for now, bye-bye!